Hi everyone, welcome to this session with GSK. We're really happy to join you today. So my name's Helen. I am the Castle Early Talent Lead. So going to give you a little overview today. We've got Sophie and Salma with us today, who are going to also give you a little bit insight about what it's like to work at GSK. So aims of this session are that you'll find a little bit more out about GSK. You're going to get to meet our placement students and find out what it's like to work at GSK, what opportunities we have for early talent, and a look at sort of our application process and our assessment centres. And hopefully by the end of this session, you're going to get some top tips and some useful links in your applications. Okay. So who we are, you will be already aware, but we're a science-led global healthcare company, and we're aiming to improve the quality of human life by helping people do more, feel better, and live longer. There are three arms of our business, which are pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and consumer healthcare. And at the minute, we're going through a really big change in the company where we're separating into two businesses. We're going to have pharma and vaccines as a new GSK, and we're going to have our consumer healthcare business in a separate company. So that's quite exciting. So what we do, we're aiming to bring high quality healthcare products, innovative healthcare products, and to do that, we need to have talented people to work in our business, hence why we're talking to you guys today. So just a little bit of a look at, I guess, the global scale of the business to just get an idea of that. So across 96 countries, we've got 94,000 employees working across GSK. And in 2020, 6.6 billion packs of medicines, doses of vaccines, or consumer healthcare products were delivered. So that just gives you an idea of the scale of GSK across the world. So just a little look at the three arms of our business. So in terms of pharmaceuticals, we've got a number of sort of classic and established medicines. So you probably know people in your family or yourself who might need an inhaler, might need some cream, ointments or gels for eczema or dermatitis. So they're sort of our classic medicines, but also we're strengthening our R&D pipeline in immunology, human genetics and oncology. So at the minute in pharmaceuticals, our top drivers are in respiratory and HIV. And we'll always looking to sort of expand and really look at innovative ways that we can sort of transform the ways patients take their medicines as well to make life, much easier for them. In terms of vaccines, we deliver vaccines across the world, protecting people at all stages of life. And an interesting fact around this is that 40% of the world's children will receive at least one GSK vaccine. So that's that's quite an impressive statistic. Our main sort of sales drivers in the vaccine space are flu and shingles. There's been a lot in the news recently about vaccines, with obviously AstraZeneca and Pfizer. We've also been working on the COVID pandemic as well. We've got a number of partnerships ongoing, and at our site in Barnard Castle in County Durham, we're gearing up to produce the Novavax UK booster vaccine in conjunction with Fujifilm Dyson. So that's really exciting. That's happening locally to us at the minute. In terms of our consumer healthcare brands, so these are the types of things that you see when you go in the pharmacy, in the supermarket, you're picking up on a day-to-day basis. So, it could be within oral health, so Sensodyne being our biggest brand, Aquafresh, Corsadil. If it's pain relief, then it could be Panadol or Voltaren, and these are the things that over the counter, the medicines that that you can pick up as you're out and about and as you need. So how we do it, so everyone at GSK, we're focused on these three priorities, which are innovation, performance and trust, and that's underpinned by our values and expectations and the culture across the business. In terms of innovation, it's about investing in new scientific and technical excellence. It's about getting new products to the people who need them. In terms of performance, we're investing in the business. We're investing in early talent. So that's, people like you guys who, we really want, you to come and join and grow with us in the business. And it's also about, investing in the business itself. And in terms of trust, obviously, we want to be the most trusted healthcare company. You've got to trust for yourself and your family that when you pick up something that has a GSK brand attached to it, you can really trust that that's a quality medicine and it's going to do exactly what it needs to do. And also around that, it's just being a great employer and making sure that when you're at work, you can be the best version of yourself at work, and really enjoy sort of that culture of being an employee for GSK. So I've already mentioned about values and expectations, and that sort of underpins our culture. And I can't stress to you how much you really do feel that the values and expectations, are felt in your day-to-day work. You really feel you are working towards, helping somebody at the end of that supply chain, a patient, a consumer, and all the values and expectations, around that means that you're doing the right thing at work, everybody's respectful at work, and people are having those open and honest conversations as well. So why is it a brilliant place to work? So I mentioned there are a lot of initiatives that make you feel good about working for GSK. There are a lot of initiatives that are helping people, things that we do with sort of Save the Children, some initiatives that we have home and abroad, with homelessness. We've got a lot of diversity initiatives and a lot of partnerships where people really can thrive at work, and I think that's really important. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Barnard Castle. It's not too far from Newcastle. We're in County Durham. We're about 40 minutes away from Newcastle. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the site. That's where Sophie, Salma and myself work, and it's quite an important site in the GSK network. I just got a little pause there. All right, so I hope you got to see that video work okay, but gives you an insight of the scope of the site, and you can see from that we're in Teesdale. It's quite a rural area. And how did GSK end up being in such a rural area? Well, it was to do with the war. So we were making penicillin. They needed somewhere that was going to be out of the um, main towns and cities that were under threat of bombing raids. They needed somewhere that had a good ready workforce and some good water supplies, some good logistics, rail and road links, and hence that's how we've been here 75 years. So it's quite an interesting story behind that. But actually, we are one of the biggest secondary manufacturing sites in PSC, which is the pharma supply chain. Um, we're a global supply. We're also what's called an NPI site, so that's new product introduction. So what we're doing is we're getting those new innovations from R&D, and we've got teams working on, how those innovations can be scaled up into the manufacturing process. So it's quite exciting to see those new products that are coming in across the next sort of 10 years. We're supplying over 1,600 SKUs, which is shopkeeping units, and that's nearly 500,000 packs a day. And it really is a premier sort of sterile site in the GSK network. We've got a factory which is called Q Block, and it is going to be open very soon. It's a digital aseptic factory that's going to be making biopharmaceuticals. So again, Barnard Castle is a really exciting place to be in terms of that. And I'm going to give you a little sneaky peek now into the factory. All right, so yeah, that's our new factory that's shortly going to be open. But what is it actually like to work at GSK in a manufacturing site? So I'm going to hand over to Sophie and Salma now. So Sophie, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Hi, thanks Helen. Hopefully everyone can hear and see me. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my role and then give some top tips for applying and assessment centres and strengths-based interviews. So my role is in analytical chemistry. I work as a laboratory analyst in the analytical labs as part of quality. So basically the role of an analyst is to test the drug products made on site to check that they meet the relevant specifications and that they're safe for the patient ultimately. I'm currently, as you can see on the slide, based within the inhalations team. There's different teams of analysts dependent on the drugs that they test. So there's also teams such as derms and steriles, but in inhalations, we test products such as a ventilator solution or a nasal spray. And types of tests we use include pH, IR spec, appearance testing, colour depth, and even with the nasal sprays, we test the device to check that each time the patient will use the device, it releases the correct amount of spray. And this testing is split into two halves. The first is called release. So as the products come off of production, they're tested to check they meet spec and then released to the customers. And the other half of this is called stability, where samples from each batch are kept and tested at time points such as 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, that type of thing, throughout the whole product life up until and even actually beyond expiry to check that they still meet the spec, they're still in trend with what we'd expect so that they're safe to use for the patient throughout the whole product life. So that's generally what I do day to day. I've also on the side had a project called Keep and Sample Improvement. So again, samples are kept from each batch, and these are keep and samples. They're kept in what is ultimately an archive, and this is in case of any complaints or any need for further testing, and they're kept for very specific amounts of time after expiry. Then they need to be disposed of. And when I started at GSK, the process it needed to be a bit more efficient, basically. So I've been trying to implement improvements. And this has involved me talking to a lot of people across site that I wouldn't talk to had I just not had this project and just been in the lab. So people in production, other analysts, senior analysts, those working in archiving, the site waste disposal team, a lot of different people. And it's really illustrated to me the culture at GSK because everyone has been so willing to help. And it creates a working environment where you are able to thrive and where you're able to ask questions, and no question is a silly question, and people are so willing to help. So that's been a real highlight for me, especially meeting other people, really key in sort of development. Another highlight has been the opportunity to get involved in things outside of your day-to-day role. So I've put some examples on the slide. We'd only been here a couple of weeks and we were helping with the work experience week with A-level and GCSE students. More recently, I've been involved in IP Unite Subcommittee for Barney as charity sub-lead, which has involved organising food bank donations, even beekeeping, which has a picture on the side of the slide, and I'm not sure if it's a bit small. But yeah, so a top tip from me for being on placement would be to get involved in as much as you can outside of your day-to-day role, because I think it really enhances your experience. Another highlight, as you can see from the pictures on the side, is the sense of community that we have amongst the IPs. Hopefully Salma agrees. There's 14 of us here this year, and it's just a real support network, and it enables you to meet more people and meet people outside of your team. So that's been another real highlight for me. And hopefully I've illustrated that I really do love the work that I've been doing, and that I know the application process and the interviews and the assessment centres, it's hard work and it's time consuming, but I cannot stress enough how worth it has been. We've been here, 3 months, just over 3 months, and already I can already see that what I've gained in development and also in confidence and even in friends really outweighs the hard work that you put in for the application process. If I just finish off by giving a couple of top tips for the process, I would say for assessment centres and strength-based interviews, if you Google example questions, there is an unlimited amount of questions that might, be asked. So something that I would recommend and that worked for me was to write down lists of points that could be used as successes or as strengths. And then also in strength-based interviews, they ask questions like, what's been a challenge that you've overcome, or what would you say your main weakness is, things like that. So I prepared sort of good points, I guess, and challenges, revised them so they were fresh in my mind, and then applied them to the relevant question, because you can never prepare for all the questions. And another tip that I would give for on the actual day is, when you're asked a question, to just take your time. You'll obviously be nervous and you might want to answer straight away as soon as they finish asking the question, but if you just pause for a few seconds, take a sip of water, that type of thing, when you actually give your answer, it'll be a lot more coherent and well thought out, and I think it will show that you're actually thinking about your answers rather than panicking. I know that's easier said than done, but I think that's a good thing to practice. And that's all from me, so I'll pass on to Salma.
Thank you, Sophie. That was a really good overview of your role. Helen, can we just skip a slide? Brilliant, thank you. So hi everyone, I'm Salma. Thank you for coming along today. So I'm the Sterile Operations Business Improvement IP at Barney. So I'm on a 12-month industrial placement, and I'm originally from Manchester. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of my background. So at A-level I did chemistry, biology, psychology and English language. And I currently study pharmacy at Keele University, and I'm taking my placement between second and third year. Just a little overview of my past work experience so far. So I worked at the Christie's Cancer Hospital. I've done quite a lot of experience in community pharmacies and quite a bit in retail and customer service. And I've also done quite a bit in elderly care homes, food shelters, and just working for local charities in general. So my role at Barney and GSK is based in the sterile business unit. So it's C block from the videos that Helen had showed us previously. And I also do 1 day a week in the aseptic facility Q block. And my role is basically just to improve their processes in manufacturing, fill, inspect and pack of pharmaceuticals and biopharms. So we deal with syringes and vials in our area. So some of the products that we work with are like Benlysta for lupus and Nucala for severe asthma, and many more like Imigran for headaches and as such. And we are MPI, so we deal with new products all the time. So within my role, I work with the engineers, the data scientists, the operational quality people and logistics to improve the quality and the flow of the batches. So from production to Sophie's team in labs, and just ensuring it's safe throughout for both the operators and the patient at the end of everything. So some of the projects that I've done so far, so I chair the deviation meeting every morning. So that would be anything that's deviated from the common process. You have to raise sort of deviation and track it through. So that's what I do every morning, and then I hold the accountability meetings as well. So far we've been here for 3 months, but I feel like I've done so much that I can't even put on one slide. So I've been involved with the international audits, and obviously due to COVID, they've not been able to come to Barney to audit our processes. So it's been virtual via a new technology called HoloLens, which is sort of like a virtual reality headset sort of thing, what you put on your head and you go around and you use Teams to sort of do a virtual audit. So I've been involved with the logistics and planning behind that. I've also been involved with a new real-time location service, which is basically a geotag that we put on all of our raw materials and our products, and it monitors the time that this product or the raw material has been out of cold store, because we deal with a lot of cold chain products that have to be monitored how long it's been out of the specific temperature range. I've also been involved with quite a lot of Power BI projects or developing apps for the cost of waste. So if there's any syringe rejects or syringe products that we can't use that are damaged, so we'd have to calculate all of the costs behind that. And I've just been involved with creating an app to sort of monitor that. Also digital SOPs, so standard operating procedures are sort of the backbone of everything that we do. So we have to use standard operating procedures when we do anything on site. So just getting all of that digitalized so that it removes the need for having paper in the area, especially because we're a sterile facility. Paper is sort of holds a lot of contaminants. And I've also been involved with time out of cold store calculating, so creating like a validated spreadsheet to sort of monitor how long products have been out of the cold store. So I'll just quickly go through some of my tips and advice. I know Sophie's covered quite a bit about the assessment centre. Just before you get to the assessment centre stage, I just wanted to go through what I did. So I would say research, look into all of the different roles in pharma, because there's so many more that you'd expect. There's so many roles that I didn't know even existed before I started here. So yeah, I would research into the different roles and sort of what do you enjoy and what do you think you'd fit in best with. I would say make use of your university CV workshops and placement hubs, because they'll have invaluable information to sort of lead you in the right direction. And I'd say get involved. No experience is bad experience. Even if it is just a part-time job, you could always use your learnings from that for interviews and for your new jobs. Like, there is no experience that isn't worth having. And just be yourself. Like, recruiters and managers, they're always looking for authenticity. They're looking for you to be yourself, because they want to know what you'd be like in the role. So yeah, be yourself, and just know experience is as important as getting your grades and getting your performance high in academics. It's just no one really tells you that when you're at uni. They don't tell you how invaluable experience is. And network as much as you can whilst you're on your work experiences, whilst you're in uni. Network, use LinkedIn, and just sort of make meaningful connections with people, because that's the sort of thing that will drive your future. But yeah, if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end. And that's me done. Thanks, Helen.
Thanks, both of you. That was fantastic, and some really good advice there as well. So thank you very much. I haven't paid Sophie and Salma to say how much they're loving their placement at GSK so far. But at the end of 12 months, so when Sophie and Salma are presenting their end of year presentations come July, it'll be amazing to see, and I think they'll be really surprised as well as how much they have achieved and grown in those 12 months. So yeah, brilliant. All right, so now we're going to have a little look at, what sort of early talent opportunities we do have for you guys. So, and then kind of have a look at that recruiting process as well. So I'm kicking off with summer student program. So it's great work experience for students to get what it's like to work GSK, even for those sort of 10, 12 weeks in the summertime. It's paid placement. So I was doing a bit of a session with some students from Leeds University who were quite surprised that we would pay our summer students. So yeah, it's paid experience, and certainly from our point of view at Barnard Castle, we'll have a job description and a project that we will have an expectation that our summer student will deliver by the end of that 10 or 12 weeks. So it is a meaningful piece of experience that you're going to get from the business. Different sites tend to recruit slightly differently. So if you're in disciplines are sort of in tech or digital, sales, finance, research and development, you need to be looking around the beginning of December for those types of roles, and you'll find those on the summer students page on gsk.com careers. Okay, now other sites may recruit slightly differently. I know certainly from Barneycastle perspective, we hire around 12 summer students, albeit we haven't been able to for the last 2 summers. But we'll be recruiting ours around the end of January time. We're going to be advertising those via our sort of LinkedIn connections and via Indeed. But also, if you're interested in sort of staying in the northeast area and getting a summer placement, then do connect with our LinkedIn Barneycastle Early Talent group, because that'll be where I will share those opportunities first to the people within that group. So as I say, if you can join that group, that would be brilliant. But usual sort of other activities will all be advertised on the gsk.com careers and via LinkedIn and Indeed. Industry placements. So we've heard from Sophie and Salma there, and we're really looking to give you some skills and experience in the business, but also we get amazing business benefits from having you working for us and sort of solving our problems and improving our processes, like these girls are doing at Barneycastle right now. We're recruiting about 350 IPs across the UK in all sorts, a real wide scope, a variety of roles. We opened our first round of placements in the first week of September. So if you're looking for a placement for next summer, some of these unfortunately have already closed, but some are still open. But if you're looking for the year after, and you may be a first year right now, then make sure that you're starting to look right at the beginning of September for these types of placements. So yeah, some placements still open for next year, and then there's another round that we tend to open around the first week in November, which may be sort of other R&D type roles, some roles within our HIV VEEV business, and some sort of HR and procurement type business roles as well. So if you are interested, make sure you go and have a look now. If you go into the gsk.com careers search and you put in industrial placement into the search, it'll bring all of those opportunities up. So scour through that, and if there are specific disciplines you're looking for, such as engineering, then put engineering within that key search as well, and those opportunities will come up. Our Future Leaders graduate program, so that's kind of our flagship global graduate program. We recruit about 50 to 60 FLPs, we call them, across the UK. We open for these the first week in October, so they are open right now, but they will close in the next sort of 4 to 6 weeks. So again, if you're looking for a graduate position or a program for September next year, then get on the gsk.com careers and put Future Leaders into the search, and the opportunities will flag up in that search. It really is a high profile rotational program, so you can get a real breadth of experience across the business, spending time at different sites, and also you get you kind of given the luxury of maybe driving that program yourself a little bit, so making those connections and networking once you're in the business, and you can kind of maybe drive your program a little bit yourself, of where you can see your career sort of developing. So that's really good. People are quite flexible about that once you are in the business. You can only apply to one role, whereas with the IPs, you can apply up to 5 positions. But for this one, we really want to know that you're motivated for one particular stream. So you can choose which one. If you go on our website and the Future Leaders pages, there are a lot of in-depth about each particular stream, so to give you a good idea of what each of those roles are. But also there's a little quiz as well where you can put in what you like to do, what your interests are, what your degree is, and it'll flag up where it thinks your strengths are in the business, and it gives you an idea of where perhaps you should be looking to apply to. So that's quite a useful little tool on the website. Again, just a little bit of an overview here of where those opportunities might fall, and that this could be across placements or graduate programs. So within sort of more commercial consumer healthcare, in business operations, in sort of manufacturing and supply, and also in research and development as well. So there really is an opportunity for everybody there within the business, and not just kind of science or engineering type roles. So in terms of getting into the business directly, there are lots of direct entry level roles that come up within the business, and again you can search and get on the search and put some of those keywords and create your alerts for job roles that might come up, and they're good for people who just might already know where they want to be and what they want to do, might not want to do a rotational graduate program. So sometimes there are opportunities where you could come directly into the business. There are sort of other programs as well that are ongoing, and certainly at Barnard Castle we developed a direct entry grad scheme, which meant that rather than future leaders spending a year with us, they spend their whole graduate program in different areas of the business at Barnard Castle. So really gaining knowledge and experience at our site rather than moving from site to site. So we normally have those roles coming out in the autumn time. So again, where will you find these roles? You'll find them by setting up some job alerts in gsk.com. LinkedIn is a brilliant source of finding jobs at GSK. We've got a great partnership with Indeed, so any of those opportunities will be advertised on Indeed as well. So Sophie and Salma mentioned there a little bit around sort of strengths-based. So we moved to strengths-based assessments and interviewing about 3 years ago. And so like just looking at what is a strength. So it's something you do all the time, you do it well, and it gives you energy. It's something perhaps that you're energized by, you're passionate about. And from that we can sort of gauge potential and get to know you a little bit more as a person. And by talking about something that you know well, that you're passionate about, more likely to give us like authentic responses rather than telling us things that you think that we want to hear. So just a little bit here about how it differs from a competency-based interview. So competency-based is what can you do or what have you done? We're asking you, what do you enjoy doing? What are you motivated by? What are you energized by? What are your passions? What are you enthusiastic about? There's a limited probing in the strengths-based situation, and that's just so that sometimes with probing, then it's like you're getting guided to a specific answer. Whereas if you're talking naturally about something that you do know, you won't need any prompting or probing for answers. You already know it, you know it's with you. So just a little bit of an overview there within sort of Salma mentioned about doing your research. It's about finding the right role for you as well, and the right business. Making sure that you're doing some research around values and expectations. Everything we do in the recruitment process is are aligned to, whether it's an interview, exercises, online activities, is we're looking, are you aligned to our values and expectations? So really do look at those and see if they resonate with you. Keep connected with any opportunities that we have. We want to know that you've got the motivation to work for us. So what is it that appeals to you about the company? It might be particular products that we make. It might be a personal story that's relevant to you. It might be initiatives that we do sort of as part of our culture. You know, recently we announced that we've developed a vaccine for children who have to prevent malaria, and that is an absolutely massive breakthrough. So you know, maybe it's those sorts of things that appeal to you about the business. What appeals to you about the role, and why do you think that you're suitable for the role? I mean, that goes without saying. You're probably thinking about those things when you're applying for jobs and placements. But in terms of us, really do think about your strengths, what you enjoy doing, what you're passionate about, what motivates you, and really have some specific examples. And Sophie gave a good tip there when she talked about how she sat and wrote down sort of her examples and and what her strengths were. And if you can align those strengths into a really good, you know, star formatted example, it's really going to stand you in good stead. Think about things that you might have done that you're proud of, some achievements. You don't have to have loads of work experience. You know, we're going to give you that work experience. So it could be hobbies, sports, volunteering. It could be something that challenging that's happened in your home life. So really don't think it has to be something that relates to work. It doesn't. Be specific, enthusiastic, engaged, and again, like just actually be yourself. I think sometimes assessment centres can seem a bit scary, but actually all the assessors, they really do want you to just be your best. I just pick up with Sophie there and Salma about your experience of, I guess you guys did the virtual assessment centre and how you felt when you did that.
Hi, can you hear me, Helen?
Yes, I can, yeah.
Oh, that's fab. So I found, GSK, before that I hadn't done an assessment centre. So I think it's natural to be nervous, but obviously ours was virtual, and on the call was actually the IP from, I guess it was the same for everyone, the department from the previous year. So they were sort of in the lobby to chat to you, and that just put me at ease straight away. I was asking questions about the role, that their personal experience of it, so that by the time I actually got to the strength-based interview and, you know, the technical interview, I was relaxed because I'd spoken to someone that had been through it. So I think, you know, even when I was speaking to the IP from before, you just fall straight into being yourself and the nerves sort of go. So obviously it's nerve-wracking, but I enjoyed it, to be honest.
That's good. What about you, Salma?
Yeah, I would agree with Sophie. I think it's quite daunting to think that you're doing an assessment centre virtually. Like when I first did mine, I was a bit stressed. Like, what if my computer doesn't work? What if the Wi-Fi drops? But everyone's so understanding, especially at Barney. Like everyone waits, they're really patient. Like, don't be stressed about tech. That should be the last thing you're stressing about. and just logistically, obviously, we're all still working out how virtual assessment centres work, and there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with that stuff. So just don't stress about that. I would say just, yeah, be yourself. I think virtual interviews are there's so many benefits to virtual interviews and assessment centres that you don't really notice until after you've done one. So I know with me, I was shirted up at the top and I had my joggers on at the bottom, and just being in your bedroom or being on your desk, like in your own environment, is so important, and it just like calms you down. And especially with like the technical side of everything, they don't expect you to know everything about the role. They don't expect you to be a scientist. They don't expect you to be an engineer. They expect you to be yourself, and I think that's just something that I was nervous about when I did mine. Just don't stress about the actual content of what you're going to be asked about. It's more so about your experience and what you can sort of bring to the role and what they can get out of you. But yeah, I would just say virtual interviews are just really beneficial, especially for students. And if you do have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. The assessors are going through exactly the same thing. We're all thinking, is our tech going to work? What if we drop out of the call? And we're going through the same issues ourselves. And in fact, I've had loads of tech issues this week. So I think we're all on the same page with that. I just got one more, I think, slide here. So just a little bit about perhaps what you guys can do to prepare. So there are places where you can do a little prep work around strengths, about how you can practice, and you can also look at, obviously, at gsk.com to find out what your focus and your motivation is to work at GSK. And we mentioned about STAR interview formats, and you might have already done this in some of your sort of careers type activities, but really aligning your examples into a STAR format really helps. And the other thing I would say is just keep connected as much as possible. LinkedIn and socials are always beneficial to find out, what opportunities are coming up. And that is about us. So obviously, why we do it, we're trying to improve the quality of human life by helping people do more, feel better, live longer. So we're going to finish up, and if anybody wants to come off mute or put any questions in the chat, we're happy to answer them. If you guys do want to connect to the Banner Castle LinkedIn Early Talent page, then feel free to connect into that and ask any questions if you need to. But thank you very much.
Thank you very much for attending today, and I just want to say a massive thank you to Helen, Salma and Sophie for speaking and leading the session. It was really fantastic and insightful. So we hope everybody enjoyed watching the event today, and thank you again for watching. We hope to see you in another one of our Employer Connect online sessions soon. So thank you, and all the